So what we want to do is we've learned how to create financial modeling. We've learned how to efficiently update models if you've done the work very well. It's a skill that saves you a lot of time, it saves you a lot of effort, and it makes your work very accurate. And then it helps you to organize your project. In fact, one of the scary thing about data analysis is where your files are stored. They're all over the place. So most of it are not stored on your computer. They are stored on the network. So when you organize them as a financial model, you can, if you forgotten where those files are, you can just go to your model and open it from there. So it's an indirect way to open the relevant file from your model. And then the good thing about financial modeling, it gives what we call an audit trail. So what we mean by audit trail is all the data you've used to do anything has a source. So you are not typing anything manually. So we call it hard coded. You are not hard coding anything. You just don't take of any data and then put that data in your model. No. Every of the data you are using is coming from somewhere. So if there's a mistake, you can easily defend yourself, or you can easily trace where the mistake is coming from. And that makes life easier. And then when you update, of course, by now you know that it makes it easier to update the model. Very fast, efficient, and very accurate. So these are all the stuff you need to do. And then, of course, if you want to send it out, you can just create a no-link version of your model and send it out. It just makes life easier, and it gives you that experience you need to easily integrate in the workforce. So the other thing I just want to mention is against next week, where we are going to do our defense. So what we do is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen to kind of show you. So it's one thing for you to have the knowledge. It's another thing if you eventually apply for a job and then they ask you for an interview. You need to be able to defend your work. So one thing we also teach people here is how to attempt interview questions. So I've posted it in the leaders forum. It's basically for leaders. So leaders, you'll be the one to answer this question on your defense day. So I'm going to choose randomly any of these 14 questions and ask you. And then what we typically do is that I will ask you to choose any of the questions. I think there will be about 6 or 5. Just the number of groups anyway. And then you will be asked to pick any number. So any number you pick, it will be one of these questions. And so I will now ask you that question and then wait for you to answer. So when you answer that question, I'm going to grade you that in a real interview, if you answer this way, I'll give you over 10, this is what you get. Maybe 1 over 10 or 2 over 10 or 3 over 10 or 10 over 10, whichever one. So you know your score. So if you get 8 over 10 or 9 over 10, there's no need for me to make any comment. But if you answer poorly, I'll tell you what the expected answer should be. So that's what we do here. So these are all. So it's one thing for you to have the skill. It's another thing when you're called to an interview. So in fact, that's the most important part. The skill and then the ability to answer the questions correctly. So those are the two most important. So this is part of the defense. So when you do your group defense next week, by God's grace, you're going to answer some of these questions. So every group leader or assistant group leader, as the case may be, you answer one of these questions, and then I'm going to grade you over 10. Now, after you've done that, the second one is that I will now ask one of the group members to demonstrate. So, here we don't do theory. Just like I've mentioned, we don't do theory. So what we do is that you'll be asked to defend some of the group work. It could be, I could ask you to replicate one of the financial model using any of the three methods. So that's what I'm saying. As much as possible, that financial modeling, you must be able to replicate it using the three different styles. Remember, the first style is the good method where you just change the links. Though it's slow, but you still get the job done. Then we know we have the better method. Remember, the better method is where you reduce the number of links and then you update it, the links, after you reduce the number of the rows of data. Actually, that's it. You reduce the row of data, then you update the links, then you drag the formula down. That's the better method. And then I taught you last week the best method. And the best method is what? You reduce the rows of data and then you use the find and replace. And then something I forgot to mention, which you should have at the back of your mind, is that when you find and replace, you should replace all the text that looks the same. So most likely it's only the year that is likely to change. So as a safety measure, always find and replace something that is similar to all, that is common to all the file names. That's what you change. Anything that's common to all the file names is exactly the ones going to change. And that's the fastest method. And that fastest method is dependent on the fact that you are consistent in your naming convention of your file. So it's easier to rename. And so that's it. And after that, you could be asked to create the no-link version. So it's one thing to update your models and all that. Then another important thing is for you to create the no-link version, your ability to create the no-link version. So the ability to create the no-link version simply means that after you've updated to a particular model and you are asked to send that analysis either to your boss or external to your organization, you need to remove all those links to your internal files. People shouldn't see it. So that's the ability to create the no-link version. I know there are two ways to do it. There are two steps in it. The first one is to break the links. The first one is to break the links. The second one is to copy the formulas and paste as values. The second one is to copy the formulas and break as value. That one is optional, but sometimes you just have to remove it. Just have to remove it. So that's exactly so you may not go through that route of breaking the formula, but you'll be asked to break the links, and then you should demonstrate how you break the links for model. Very, very important. And of course, is that broken link that is published in websites. For example, the model we're actually using, the IMEP, the MIDI, the SWAY, the SWEP, the EPN, the SEPN, the UK Power Networks, the London LPN, the London Power Networks, LPN. They all have a models that create that workbook that you are seeing. But the one that is published is actually the no-link version. If you notice, there's no link to any source file. If you check the email MIDI, you see the link. I think they accidentally left it there. If you check, you see it there. They accidentally left some of the links there. So you can take a look at it and see actually that's how it works, even big companies like National Grids and all that. So that's it. So I've kind of summarized all that we need to know with respect to the assignment. Then the other thing is that I've recently created the assignment submission portal. So what normally happens is this time around, I want to optimize it. So I'm going to modify this to be group by group, just to make it easy. So I'll replicate this. So this will be group 1. So group 1 will submit on here. So I'll create for group 2 and all that. So the essence being that you can easily know the group. So this is for group. This is for group. This is group submission. So I'm going to create for each of the individual groups. So you will definitely have to submit it that way. So we're going to create Excel submission portal. We are going to create SQL submission portal, and then we are going to create Python submission portal. And in this portal, individually, each individual is to submit based on their group. So I've done for group 1. I will replicate for group 2, group 3, and all that. And then please, whenever you are submitting all your workbook, please include your full name as you want it on your certificate, the order in which you want it. So the order in which you always write your name on your certificate, it's essential that you write it that way and include your group number also on it. It's very, very important. So submit your work and also include your group number with respect to it. Very, very important. And after you've done that, the essence being that with your name and group number, it's easier to track. And then if you have any issues, I can discuss with your group leader to resolve anything that you want to do. So that's just a kind of summary of all that is required. Any question? Good afternoon, everyone. You are welcome back. So today, this second half, before we finish, we want to learn about logical operation. And the reason why we need to learn about logical operation is based on the fact that every day we take a lot of decisions based on some condition. For example, if the rain is not falling, we can go shopping. If the rain is falling, then you have to take you have to go with your umbrella if the shopping is necessary and all that. And then sometimes we take some decision based on time. So if it's 8 o'clock, for example, you need to take your children to school. If it's 3:30 in the UK time, you have to go and bring them back and things like that. So there are some things we also do based on time. And then there are some times it has to be a combination of so many things. For example, if it's time to pick the children from school and it's raining, it is better you go with your car. Something like that. So there are so many situations in life where multiple conditions need to be met before you take action. So the same thing as a data analyst, when you are working with data, you sometimes look at the conditions of something before you actually do it. I'm not supposed to do this, but notwithstanding, it's a bonus. Next time I'm going to fix it. So what we want to learn today is actually the skill of conditional operation in Excel. And there's people writing on my screens. Stop them. So the first one is the if. Whether you like it or not, at one point you may do some analysis to evaluate something based on some certain condition. So let's say, for example, we have a student passes or fail. The easiest one is if a student gets above 50 and above, for example, is a pass. That one is easier. You simply type equals to if, then you do the logical expression. The logical expression is whatever is in the content of here if it's, remember, it's greater than equal to, remember that the rule says that equal, when you are doing greater than or equal to whatever, the equal sign must always be at the end anyway. So it's greater than or equal to 50, then the person pass. Then the grade is pass. Something like that. In quotation mark. So anytime you are typing text in Excel, please always remember to put everything in quotation mark, double quotation mark. And that's it. So this is what you have. So now when you do this, you then put the condition if it's false. So it will only give you result if it is true. You get pass or false. So sometimes you don't want things like that. So what do? You modify the formula and say the logical test. If the value is true, it should be pass. If the value is false, it should be fail. As simple as that. So you test the logical expression. If this expression is false, it will be fail. If it's true, it will be pass. Something like that. And then you press OK. And then you get the real definition, which is fail or pass. Now, there are situations where the options is not 2, it is 3. In this case, that takes us to the second example. If, for example, we want to grade student to say, okay, if you score between 85 and 100, you should be distinction. If you score between 70 and 84, it should be merit. Then if you score between 60 and 69, it should be pass or else fail. Something like that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 different options. So in that case, there are 2 ways to go about it. You can either go from the bottom to the top, or you can go from the top to the bottom. The choice is yours. So what normally you do is, I don't know which one will be convenient, but let me go from top to bottom. So to go from top to bottom, you use the if and then type the if. So the reason why you must get used to this is because you see your result. You get it before you press OK. So that's the advantage. You already see whether you've done the right thing by the first result you get. And that will determine whether you. So the logical test is I want to go from the top to bottom. So the top to bottom is if whatever is here, because we'll be dragging the formula down. So let's do this. We'll fix the column. If is greater than or equal to 85, or yeah, that's it. So if S4 is greater than or equal to 85, that's the distinction. So you type distinction. So that's the distinction in quotation mark, in double quotation mark. Now, if it is false, if it does not fall into that category, then it's in the remaining 3, which is merit, pass, or fail. So in that case, you now type again. If you copy this formula, just to make life easier, you copy the same formula again, copy it, and then you say it's greater than or equals to 70 this time around. You get it? And then you specify what condition you want. So in this case, you type the if. Do you get it now? You type the if again. So you type if this is greater than or equals to this. Then, if it is true, what should it be? then it's a merit. That's it. If it is false, what should you do? It should be the other one. So you said if, then you copy that one. And then you put a comma at the end of the day. Oh, let me type it directly here then. Equals to if the first one, then as usual, you fix your row is greater than or equal to 85, then we know that that person gets distinction. So you type distinction. So there's always the first option. So, and then you put a comma. Then say the value if false. So the value if false is when it does not fall into that condition. So you do it again. You copy this entire formula, Control C, and then you paste. And say this time around, if it's greater than 70, you get it. Then remember your if again. So it's a nested if. Then it should be what? It should be merit. And then it will ask you and ask, if false, what should you do? If false, then you test again. If Control V again, because you've already copied it. This time around, it will be 60. Then it should be what? Pass. And then you put a comma. If it's not valid now, you've tested all the three conditions. So you've tested distinction, you've tested merit, you've tested pass. So if it doesn't fall into any of these conditions, what do? Then it's a fail. So just type fail. You don't need to test less than. So if you don't fall into all the other conditions, it's actually a fail. And then now, you have to close the bracket. So now sometimes some of you will be wondering, if you check, each of the bracket that is open has a color. The last bracket that was open was purple. The second one is red, and the first one is always black. So whenever you are closing your bracket, just know that black must be the last bracket. I'm giving you that secret now. Black will always be the last one. So you close the first one, which is purple. You close the next one, which is red. And then you close the last one, which is black. Until you get black, you've not closed the bracket completely. And then you press enter. And you see it's failed, of course, which is true. By the time you drag the formula down, we know that 72 is merit. Can you see? And then anything above 72 will be distinction. Okay? For example, 85. So you test the three conditions, 85, 70, and 37. It falls, it gives us the correct one. So that's how you do it from bottom down. Now, let's apply that same method for grading, the actual grading we are all familiar with, which is 70 to 100 is A, B to 60 to 69 is B, and all that. So in that case, you do the same process. So it's always good you use this method, equals to if you look at this grade here, if whatever is here, you fix the column. This time around, you say it's less than or equals to 39. So now you are going from bottom now. So if it's less than or equals to 39, then it should be what? It should be F. As simple as that. So now you just copy this formula because you repeat it several times to do the testing. So copy, Control C, then put, if it is false, you see it's telling me in bold that value if false, You put the formula again. Typically, you copy the entire formula like this. Forgot to mention that. Copy the entire formula like that, including the if, but not the equal sign. You only have one equal sign. And then say if is now less than or equal to 44. So now when you are going from the bottom, you always use the last one, which is 39, 44, 49, 59, 69, and 100 like that. So you say if it's less than or equals to 44, it should be a B. Something like that. E. And then you paste the formula again. And then this time around, the next one is 49. So if it's less than 49, then it should be a what? A D. And then you paste again. If it's false, so you always paste that formula when it doesn't satisfy that condition. So that's when you test the others. So you press Ctrl V, and then this time around, if it's not 59, then it should be a what? C. So the way it works is that the order in which it will start from the smallest. You check that value, is it less than 39? Immediately it satisfies that condition, it will execute it. So it will give you an F straight away. It's only when the value does not satisfy 39, it now checks for the next one and keep checking like that. So it's only when you will try to check the first occurrence of true. That's what it's looking for. The first occurrence of true. That's what it's looking for. That's what the if condition is actually looking for. Now, if it's false, that's when you place the formula. So you remember it's now bold, telling me value if false. And then you Ctrl V again, and you now check if it's less than 69. If it's less than 69 or equals to 69, then that is a what? That's a B. And then finally, you paste if it's less than or equals to 100, which is the last figure. Then it's actually A. And that's it. If it's less than or equals to 100. So if you check how we are doing the testing, when we are going from the bottom, we test 39, we test 44, 49, 59, 69, and 100. That's exactly how we do it that way. Now, after you've done that, the next thing is to close your bracket. Now, just the same way I told you, the last bracket must be black. So you have to keep closing until you get black. So you close the first one, which is brown. You close the next one, which is red, I think. You close the next one, which is green. You close the next one, which is purple. You close the next one, which is red again. And then you close the last one, which is black. So it's that black one that shows the completeness of your analysis. Then you press enter. And you can see 37 is F. Now, if you drag the formula down, you see that every other thing works as intended. Every other thing works as intended. So I'll leave you to do the version 4. Now, that takes us to another important one, which is the AND. So now, what does the AND does? The AND simply checks the boundary. So for example, you say if equals to if, and then you do an AND. So the AND is that if this grade here, so let's go from if this grade, you do your normal fixing, is less than or equals to 49, and then you put a comma, and that same grade is greater than or equals to 0. Greater than or equals to 0. That means the AND means that the grade is between 0 and 49. You get it now? So the and is used to do the grade in between. So you are saying simply, if this person's grade is between 0 and 49, that's exactly what this logical operation does. And C4 is less than or equals to 49, and C4 is greater than 0. So that means it's between 0 and 49, then it should be a fail. Or else, in this case, it's a pass. As simple as that. Or else, the person pass. If your grade does not fall within those two, definitely you pass. As simple as that. So that's how we use and. So and is used when you want to specify the boundary. And then you press enter. And then you get fail again. And then every other thing actually works as expected. Now, if you want to do that for distinction, it's the same thing. You type equals to if. It doesn't matter how you want to do it. You can start from minimum to highest. You can start from highest to minimum. It doesn't matter. The most important thing is you are consistent with it, so you don't confuse yourself. So in this case, let me start from minimum to maximum as a standard. So you now say and. So you now select this grade, anything here, if it's greater than, if it's less than, or if it's greater than or equals to 0, and then comma, the same result, F4, is less than or equals to 49. So now you're able to correctly identify it, that is between 0 and 49. So greater than or equals to 49, or less than or greater than or equals to 0 and less than or equals to 49, then is the what? So the person gets distinction. Okay. Distinction is 85. So it's greater than or equals to 85. And then it's less than or equals to 100. So as long as it fulfills those two conditions, so that means the person scored between 85 and 100, then gets a distinction. If it's not, then you do the test again. So to make life easier, you copy the if just like I did the other time. Copy the entire if and then paste and then modify. So this time around, it will be between 70, which is the smallest, to the highest, which is 84. So that's the easiest way to go about it. And then it will be what? Merit. And then if it is false, remember that formula, you always paste it when the value is false. It will always show you in bold. So whenever I show you in bold, you paste the formula again and then specify the limit. So when you specify the limit now, it will be between 60, 60, you type 60, and then you type what? 69. As simple as that. So now, if all this, if it's between that, it will be now pass. Or else, if you don't meet this, of course, we don't expect people to fail anyway. Then that person will fail. And that's it. So if it does not meet all these conditions, so if it does not meet all the conditions from 100 to 60, then the person failed according to our standard here. And then the next thing is now close your bracket. So remember, the rules still remain the same. The last bracket will be black. So just keep closing until you get black. So we have green, we have purple. Okay. What's the last one? Yeah. So green has been closed. So we have purple, we have red, and then we have black, and that's it. So immediately you press that, you press enter. Okay. Oh, I've not made any mistake. Hmm. So that's the issue. So let's look at it. Oh, equals to here. Sorry about that. Is the equal sign. I've seen the issue. Is the equal sign. So how many open brackets? So we have purple, we close purple, we close red, and then black. Yeah. And that's it. So, and with that, we're done with our analysis, and then you can drag down. And if you check, it works as usual. So I'll leave this for you to do the version 3. You can use any method, and then it should give you the result you want. So in that case, when you use AND, you are looking at in between two range, either 0 to 49, 50 to 100, then you anything between, as long as it fulfills that condition, it gives you whatever you want. Now, we look at the if and or. So that's in fact, we use this to grade your certificate. So I'll use this. So it's not like I use this. So for you to get a data analyst certificate, a complete data analyst certificate, you have to pass at least Python and SQL. You have to pass Python and SQL. So that's it. So in order to get that, you have to pass Python and SQL. You either pass Python and SQL or you pass Python and Excel. I think that's it, yeah. So if you pass SQL and Excel, you will not get our certificate because Python is the height. So you have to pass at least Python and SQL or Python and Excel as a condition for you to get our certificate. So to do that, the idea is you must get above 60. That's the pass. Our pass is 60 and above. So to do that, you have to use all. You have to use all. So in this case, you say equals to. You check if the person, if this person's grade here is greater than or equals to 60. And in this case, we are using all. So to be awarded certificate, you must pass Python and SQL. So use the and. You get it now? So you must pass Python and then you put a comma. You copy the entire or you can select SQL. Must pass both. So your SQL score also must be greater than 60. Then you will say pass or you fail. You have to satisfy those two conditions. As simple as that. You have to satisfy those two conditions. So you either pass. Remember, you have to put everything in quotation mark or fail. So for you, we check the first sentences. Did you pass Python and SQL? If you pass Python and SQL, then you get a pass. So that's the condition. You must pass both. And then you press enter. And you see this person, pass. But by the time we look at this second person, it should be fail. Can you see? Because the person didn't pass Python. So that means our condition works. You have to test it with the wrong and the right answer to be sure that it works. Now, all you need to do is copy that and paste here. And all you need to do is to change the link. So if you check, it's looking at Python and SQL. You just change it to Python and Excel now, which is column H. So you change the G to H. So it means that we are checking for both Python and Excel now to get the same result. So that's exactly how we do it. Immediately you're getting the first logical stuff right, you can always copy that formula and then modify. Then press enter. And of course, you notice that the person failed because Excel is 43. So by the time you drag it down, this is what you get. So now the certificate to be awarded is you must get at least pass here or here. So you must either get pass here or you get pass here. So as long as you have that, so in this case here, this person will not get certificate. This person will get certificate. This person will get certificate. This person will get certificate like that. So in that case, you use or. So the other person pass this condition or pass this. So in that case, you say equals to if whatever is here, and then you do the normal fixing and all that, is equal to pass. So in this case, you use or. If whatever the person have here is equals to pass, or whatever the person has here is equals to pass, and that's it. So either of the two, either you have pass in column I or you have pass in column J, then you should be awarded. So, you should be awarded. Sorry about that. Successful. Let me put successful. Something like that. Can put anything, or else the person will need to repeat. We need to repeat the class. So that means the person cannot get our data analysis certificate, something like that. And then you close it. So that's the use of and or. So now we are checking, the person has a pass in column I or column J. If he has, then we do that. And then you see that this person is successful. But as you go down, this one is repeat and all that. So by the time you go to, you filter along the successful, you discover that at least they have a pass in either of the column. So this, you can see, and then by the time you come here, this has a pass. So it means that at least they have a pass in either of the column. So that's how we use the combination of and or and all that. By the time you look at those that actually have to repeat, you discover that they have fail in both. Can you see? They have fail in both. So if you have fail in both, then you have to repeat, something like that. So that's how sometimes you can use the combination of and or. Now the question is, where do you use and where do you use or? And is when you want the two conditions to be fulfilled. That's when you use and. Or is when at least one condition must be true. That's when you use or. Always know the difference. And is all conditions must be fulfilled, or is at least one of the conditions must be fulfilled. And then that takes us to our pivot operation. Remember that when we're doing our pivots, we want to extract the pivot sums for all the year. We want to do an aggregation. So let me clear. So as usual, please, before you do anything, ensure there's no any filter on your data. So we want to do pivot operation. So in this case here, we want to do pivot. Pivot and sum ifs is the same. So we'll see the difference here. So in this case here, we want to get all the year release. So to get all the year release, you can use the unique function to return all the year release. So you can use whatever method you want. So in that case, you simply say equals to unique. To make life easier, use the function to get the unique here. So just type unique, and then you select the array. So the array is the pivot song data. Select the year release. This case. So they have the header already. So you fix it. And then by column. So by column means that compare rows against each other and return the unique rows. So if you want the unique row, then it must be equals to false. But if you want to compare column against each other and return the unique column, so we are dealing with unique rows, so you type 0 or false. And then returns row or column that occur exactly once from the array, true, or return all distinct rows or column. So in this case, I think we type 0 again. And then it's going to return all the unique rows. In this case, you press OK. And that's it. It returns all the unique rows for you. Now, you can sort it from smallest to largest. So this unique value, you can sort it. There's a sort function. And then sort the entire array, which you've done. And then you want to sort it by the index 1, which is the first column. And then you want to sort it in ascending order. And then it sorts it in the ascending order. I did teach you sorting. Okay. Yes. So you can sort. Ooh. It's too late now. But I'll repeat it again just for... So after we've returned the data, we've returned our data, as you can see. We need to sort it. So there are two ways you may want to sort it. The first one is, let's use the easier method. You copy the entire data and then you paste as value, because you cannot sort with a formula in place. So I'll paste it as a value, and then you can use this method to sort from smallest to largest. So that's one way to do it. So I'll leave that method for now because I didn't teach you sorted, but I should have taught you. Anyway, so the next one is to do the aggregation, the sum ifs and all that. So I'm just going to do that just to make life easier. So remember the rule. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 using the sum if without the s, and the remaining 3 also with the s, as the case may be. So in this case here, remember how we do it. We go to here. Some of you have forgotten sum if. We'll do count if. So number of songs is count. So we want to count the number of songs per year. So count if, and we'll click go. In that case, we select the count, single one. The range we want to count. Remember, the range we want to count is you go to the song where we have the year. So we select the year. So select the year. Please always include the header. And then the criteria is the year. Yeah. So, and as usual, always remember to fix, of course, and then you press OK. And then what do you have? We say for the year 0, we have 5,320. So you only need to confirm this once. I know it's correct, but you still need, as a data scientist, you need to confirm it. So what we do, we go to the beginning of our data. You just press Control and the up button. It goes to the beginning of your data. And then you select all the year 0. And then if you check the left-hand side of yours, you see the total number, which is 5,320. It's always, when you filter like that, you don't need to select, you get the entire result in the left-hand side, the down left-hand side of your data, which is 5,000. It will show you 5,320 of 10,000 records. And that's it. So we are correct. So I don't need to actually verify that. So we've done that. And then you drag the formula down. So for the average tempo based on year, what you do is you go to the function and then you do average if. As usual, you click go and then you click OK. And then remember, you just need the range and the criteria. So remember, the criteria must be found in the range. So that range is actually the year range and the criteria is the year. So that's what you need for these two. So the range and the criteria, because they are both together, it means that the criteria must be found in the range. That's what the two bold means. So the range is the year column. So you go to the year column again, select it down, and then you fix it as usual. And then the criteria you are looking for is this. And then you apply your formula as usual. Now, the average range is actually your calculation now, which is the tempo. So remember, that's the end, which is average tempo. So the average tempo, you go and select the average tempo. So you select the tempo, and then you fix it. Then you click OK. And that's it. And then you get the result. And then now, because you've done it correctly, all you need to do is Control C, Control V. The only thing that will change here is the average loudness. The loudness is in a different column. So you go to where the loudness is, which is column H. So you go and change G to H, as simple as that. So you change this G to H. So just change the G letter to H. As simple as that. And that's it. You get the average loudness per year. And that's it. So you get the result. Now to do the average duration and all that, all you need to do is this time around we are using the average ifs. So in that case, you go here. So I just want to do the two methods so you're all familiar with it. Average ifs, the one with the capital, with the S. So select the average if. Now the difference, by now you know the difference is that in the one that contains S, your result is first calculated. Then you can now start doing your analysis. So the average range is first calculated. So the average range is duration. So you go to your previous song data and you select the duration. And then you fix it. And then you can now start doing your criteria range and all that. So you can now start doing your filtering. So in this case, the criteria 1 must be found in criteria range 1. And the criteria 1 we are looking for, in this case, is just 1, which is year. So the criteria range 1 is actually the year column. So what you do is you select the year column in your data. Select the year column. Then you fix it. And then you select the criteria, which is the year. Remember, that's the criteria. And then you apply the normal fixing and all that. And then you press enter. And then you get the average duration for that year. Now, the sum of the song duration, is just the only thing is this is average, this is sum. So you can always, it's the same process. You copy and you paste as formula. And then this time around, you just change the average to some ifs. As simple as that. So in this case, it's very simple. Sum ifs S with capital S. So just select it. It's the same thing. So, and you get this, and then you drag down, and then you get the rest. As simple as that. So now the maximum tempo is a bit different. So in this case, you go to your formula and you do mass if. So maximum tempo, maximum is mass ifs. So it's mass ifs, and that's it. Select mass ifs and press OK. And then the maximum range, as usual, is the result which you want. Remember the result first. So we'll go to the tempo, which is this, the tempo, Control Shift, and then down, and then you fix it. And then you start doing the criteria range and all that. So the criteria 1 must be found in criteria range 1. That's the rule. So criteria 1, the criteria we are looking for is the year criteria, and it must be found in the year column. So all you need to do is go to the year column and then go to the beginning. And then press Control Shift down and then press the F4. And then the criteria is actually the year. As simple as that. And then you fix your row, your columns, and then that's it. So that's what we get here. And then we get this data. Now, all these things I've done are correct. Now, sometimes when you are doing things like this can be time consuming. So there's a faster way to do it. And that faster way is to use pivot table. So let's use pivot table to do all this whole stuff we've done in under 2 minutes. Everything under 2 minutes, we do it using pivot table. So what do? We simply go to Insert, Pivot Table. So the first thing we want to insert, select the entire data. So don't worry about that. Go to the entire data. Go to the beginning. Don't worry. Just press Control and then up button. It takes you to the beginning of your data. Press Control Shift to the end and then down and things like that. And then you press OK. Then you can now. No. This is not where I wanted it. Delete. So where are we? This here we want to insert it. So we'll click here. Then we click Insert. And then we click Pivot Table. And then we select the table range. As usual, you go to your pivot songs data. And then you press Control up to go to the beginning of your data very fast. Then press Control Shift as usual down. And then you fix. The data is fixed already, so you don't need to fix anything. And then you press OK. And that's it. Now, the first thing we want, just from is the year release. So what you need to do, go to the year release column and drag it to your row. Just drag it to your row. And you see automatically it's populated. So it's populated exactly as we have it here. Now the next one is you want the number of songs released. So you can use the song ID to do that. So you go to the song ID and take it to the values. So take the song ID or the year, it doesn't matter. You can take the year, as usual, you take it here, and then select count. So instead of sum of year, you just select value fit settings and you select count. And then we have the same result. Can you see? You get the same result, count of year. And then the next one is average tempo. So to get average tempo, just take tempo, drag it here, and then you can come here now and right click and summarize by average. And then we get the same result. Can you see? You get the same result, average. And then to get average loudness, you go to loudness, you drag loudness to the values tab here. And then this time it will be sum. You can right click and change it to summarize to average. You get it? You summarize to average for the loudness. As simple as that, and we're done. And then average duration, you go to duration and drag it down. So you can either change it here. So the sum of duration, what we want is average duration. So right click, you drop this, click on value field edit, and then select the average because that's what we want. So you see that we now have average duration. Can you see? We have average duration. And then the next one is sum of song duration. So just go to the duration and drag it to the values. So mostly you either see sum or count. So this around is sum of duration, so which is okay. So we don't need to change anything. And then we've done column F. And then we go to the last one, which is maximum tempo. So all you need to do is drag the tempo down. You likely see sum of tempo. Can you see? We see sum of tempo. So you just right click it and summarize values by maximum. So you can do minimum, you get it. So this time around, we just do maximum. And then we get the same result. Now, how are we sure that this two is the same result? We subtract it and everything should give us 0. So how do we do that? We simply say whatever we have here, let's start with this, minus whatever we have here should return 0. Can you see? That means they are the same. So that's how we check our calculations are the same. So now when you drag it across, can you see we get the same result? When we drag it down, we get the same result. So that means our sum if and our pivot table returns the same result for us. So that's exactly so that's exactly how we evaluate our result. So you can see now that all the sum A's and all that, we can do it very simple and easy using pivot table, and it's going to give us the same result. And as you can see, we got the same result, which is, if you check the maximum tempo, 262.828. 262.828. And if you go down, we have 200.004. 200.004. So meaning that we get the same result. So that's exactly how we do our analysis. I think our time is fast gone. Please do that for here and let's see what you get at the end of the day. And also do the pivot for the, what do you call it? Using data for both pivot to do the songs analysis. And that should be able to give us the same result like me. So I've done mine and it gives me this result and it tells me that it's the same. Sum ifs and the pivot table gives me the same result. As you can see from here, everything is 0. I want you to replicate that and you should get the same result. And with that, we come to the end of our training for this time. Wishing you all the best in your assignment.